Hey there, y'all. Welcome. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my slides and then we'll get started. So let me share my screen with you and then we will put this in presentation mode. There we go. All right. So hopefully you can see me and the slides at the same time. That's the goal. Today's topic is hack your brain, change your life. And this is part of the Neuroverse presentation and series of talks hosted by Catherine McCord. So, once again, Catherine, thank you so much for the opportunity to present. And for you, the folks watching this, I appreciate your time and I hope this is interesting and useful. That was my intention as I was creating this slide. So, let's go ahead and get going. So, today's topic, I'm going to talk a little bit about how our mindset really works as a filter. And the way we think about the world affects how we see our world. I'm going to talk also a little bit about the process that I use with clients and with myself to be able to get really great results in life, even though I've been late diagnosed with ADHD. So my intention is that this will really help you get unstuck by helping you remove your conscious and subconscious mental blocks so that you can get what you most desire in life. That is my specialty, helping people get what they want. All right, so a little bit about me. I did work in corporate originally as a business systems analyst in credit card processing, IT, and then moved into marketing and sales. And then in 2005, my husband and two of his buddies had started an IT consulting firm. And one of the other guys actually recommended bringing me in since I had done IT and done marketing and sales. Why not put those two together? And I've been doing that ever since. In addition to that, in 2018, I founded this coaching practice. I really started mostly to help people around money, um, anything really where I have some personal experience and success. I feel comfortable marketing that that's something I do. So, getting out of debt, basic investor education, starting and running a small business, especially services business. And then in 2020, during the midst of the pandemic, I went for some additional coach training with the Life Coach School. And out of that training, I ended up losing 50 pounds. So, very quickly, as I was out and about networking, that is really what everybody wanted to know. How did you lose the weight? How did you shift that focus, shift that mindset? And so at that point, my business shifted more towards talking about weight loss, health, wellness. A little sprinkle in there. In 2022 was diagnosed with inattentive type ADHD. So if you see me wander off, that's why. I'm pretty good about accommodating myself and staying pretty well on track. But, that is how my brain works for good and sometimes not so great. One other thing in my background that might be of interest, I do have a book that I have published. It's available out on Amazon, and it's on exactly this topic, how to really get what you want, my ACE methodology. So it's a small book, a very easy read. If that is of interest to you, you can just search on Amazon for me or for the title of the book, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. So I also have here some credentials, right? It's great having your own personal success story. And also it's nice to have some sort of independent third party validation that I've had some education. So the shiniest and newest credentials, I'm now an NASM certified personal trainer and certified nutrition coach. That is on top of that coaching certificate that I got from the Life Coach School. I'm a certified life and weight coach through the Life Coach School. And then I've done some other more energy healing type trainings as well. Most of my work with clients is very much mental and mindset related, but I like to have a lot of tools in my toolbox that I can just pull out as needed. Sometimes that makes the difference in getting unstuck. So All right, before we talk about how you're going to get what you want, I do think it's worth reviewing how you got what you have now, right? Because that gives us a template for how we get things and what out of that we might be able to change. So, for most people, it's a combination of factors like genetics, right? There's a certain amount that just comes pre programmed based off who mom and dad were, and also kind of the luck of the dice of how those genes get combined or divine intervention, right? Whatever you believe in, but a little bit of mom, a little bit of dad, a little bit of science and magic, and there you have your genetic makeup. But as we most of us know, it's not just nature, it's also nurture. So a lot of it goes down to who raised you. So, maybe you have mom and dad's genes, but you were adopted. Both of those factors are going to come into play. And it's not just your immediate family or your biological family, but it's also the people around you during those formative years. So that might be peers and siblings, that might be influential adults like a coach or a teacher or a principal, somebody whose advice and suggestions really stuck with you or who really took an interest in you. And we are affected by the broader sort of cultural soup we're raised in as well, right? What's going on in the media? What do we see on TV? Cultural norms, what's trending on the internet. These are all things that are sort of around us that we're absorbing, especially during those formative years, but even as adults as well. And then for a lot of us, there are also maybe little keystone incidents, experiences, decisions that sort of Scarlett O'Hara, in the Muddit Terra, as God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again, right? What are the moments that formed you, shaped you? It might be trauma, or it might be a success in life, something inspirational. But usually these are the things that help create who we are as a person, our self-concept, our identity. So in other words, the programming in your body and in your brain, most of which you did not intentionally choose, is what has shaped your mindset and therefore your actions and therefore your results up until today. Ooh, clicked in the wrong place. Next slide. All right. But the good news is we don't just have to keep living out that early programming. We do have a choice, right? In this moment and going forward, what do I want? Your choice becomes very important. While most of us are just living out our programming, the truth is we can reprogram a lot about ourselves. So let's start with the physical. We know we can change our bodies through what we eat, the kind and amount of activities we do, even directly, things like tattoo, piercings, hair dye, right? We know we have some effect over how we appear and what's going on with our bodies. To get on an even smaller level, we can even change the expression of some genes. So the genes you get may be pretty much fixed at birth, but whether that gene gets switched on or switched off can often be a factor of environment, even thinking, choices, the environment, not just around us, but around the cell inside our bodies. If you really want to get into this, epigenetics would be what I recommend you Google. It's kind of a newer field, but it's been around, gosh, I think since the 70s. And so scientists are really starting to understand that more, that it's not just, well, my dad had this disease, so I'm definitely going to have this disease. Maybe, maybe not. A lot of times we do have more power than we think as to whether or not that gene expresses. Or even if it's 100% going to express, we may have some control over how early or how late in life it expresses. So super fascinating. And maybe on a level that more people are familiar with, we can also choose the circumstances that might cause more mutation or less mutation in our genes. So that's basically what carcinogens are, right? If you are, I think most of us are familiar with the idea that smoking can bring on lung cancer. Now, there are certainly people who smoke like chimneys all their lives, never get lung cancer. There are people that don't smoke, have no environmental risk factors, and get lung cancer. But the vast majority of us genetically are probably somewhere in between. And so smoking or not smoking is something that could push us towards being less likely or more likely to develop it. We understand that. If you want to get even weirder, this is an opportunity for an ADHD side quest that I've started down that path myself as I was researching for this presentation. It turns out not only can we affect to some degree how much mutation our cells express, and from an epigenetic standpoint, which genes express and which genes don't. We can even, or scientists can even now edit the human genome inside of an already alive person. Fascinating. So needless to say, that is an area that is fraught with ethics concerns and debates. But if you really want to geek out on that, that is something fun you could start Googling and look into. But it hints at the fact that, again, we are not victims of our genetics. It's not a 100% foregone conclusion that everything will turn out in a predetermined way that was decided before we were even born. But setting the physical aside, for the purposes of today, let's talk about how we can change our mental programming. That's really much more my area of expertise. So I have taken everything I have read, everything I have studied, all the courses and classes I have taken. This is no joke, probably close to $50,000 worth of research and studying, just if you include the cost of the classes, the certifications, the books, not counting my time, right? My time would be on top of that. So when I was using all these disparate methodologies and talking to different coaches and therapists and practitioners and trying to understand a framework for how do we help people change, this is what I boiled it really down to, this ACE methodology. So ACE, ACE, the A stands for awareness, which is what do you want, right? Like the Spice Girls asked us, what do you want? What do you really, really want? And it sounds like a dumb question and maybe even an obvious question, but a lot of us are so busy, so beat down, we don't even stop to think that anything else is possible. We don't even start to think about what we would like to have. So it's worth some time daydreaming around that. And if you can't come up with anything, if you're like, I'm not happy, but I don't know what I want, I just haven't even thought about it, it is sometimes easiest to start with what you don't want. Usually we're very clear on what we do not want. It might be a crappy job situation, a bad relationship, something in the circumstances of our lives that we are not happy with. With a lot of my clients on the health and wellness side, they know they want to lose weight, but they have to figure out of all the things, all the levers I could pull to lose weight, which ones sound good, which ones sound fun, which ones sound easy, which ones sound approachable. So narrowing down and getting very specific and very clear on what we do want. The next step is C, which stands for clearing. And that is once we know what we don't want, or once we know what we do want, right? What do I not want? Reverse that. What do I want? Why not just go get it, right? If what you want is some index cards off Amazon and you've got plenty of money in your checking account, you just go order them. So why not just do that? Usually there is something between where you are and where you want to be. And so C is for the piece of the process that is clearing out what's in the way of you getting what you want. And this can be very logical and practical and tactical, right? Maybe I know I want to lose weight, but I don't have time. Okay, where are you spending your time? And what out of that can we tweak? Maybe, most of us spend an hour or two each night watching TV. If you love that and you need that, and that is your downtime and it's sacred, leave it alone. But for a lot of us, maybe we usually watch 2, 3 hours of TV and we'd be perfectly fine watching an hour and then doing something else. But is it time? Is it a lack of strategies, right? On the executive function side, often it's a lack of tools and strategies and tips and techniques and tricks that will support you in getting what you want. So there's the conscious piece that as soon as you think about it, you know what you need to work on. And then once that is done, if you still feel stuck, it can be an iterative process of using tools and techniques to clear not just the logistical things that are obvious and conscious in life, but also the subconscious blocks. So maybe we've got all the tools and tips and techniques, but we've gotten so beat down that we don't think we can do it. So why bother? That would be a thought level issue that you might be able to loosen up with some of the tools and techniques that I teach my clients. So an iterative process going through clearing until the path ahead of you is smooth and easy sailing. The last piece of the ACE methodology is E, which stands for energy. Now, for those of you that are very left brain logical, tactical, energy can be attitude. We've all heard people to say like, oh, she's so fun. She has such great energy. Or, ugh, I hate working with that coworker. He just has like Eeyore vibes. Oh, bother. Right? So there's that understanding of energy. And that is certainly a piece of it. And we will go as far beyond that as you feel comfortable. Some of my clients, we just do the logical, practical, tactical, left brain. Remember, I used to work in IT, so I get that mindset. But for those who are open-minded, looking to really get at the heart of the matter, it can also be a little more woo-woo. A lot of my clients have done the therapy, they've done the coaching, they have processed through and dealt with their childhood, their trauma, whatever it is. But even though mentally they've reprocessed it and it's clear, that energy can still be stuck in your system. So again, a little woo-woo, if that's not your thing, ignore that part. But for those who are open to it, a little sprinkle of that can be very helpful. And I will say, I don't think that I'm doing anything that won't one day be proven by science. It's just, science hasn't gotten to everything yet. There are still things that haven't been fully studied and fully understood. And so some of these more traditional approaches, maybe more Eastern approaches, maybe more intuitive approaches, we'll get there with the science. We just haven't yet, my opinion. So, all right. Some of you may be watching this and saying, okay, yeah, that makes sense. My thoughts do matter. Having some strategies, having some support, that could all help. But she doesn't get it. It's different for me because I have a diagnosis. And let me be clear, I am not saying that your diagnosis isn't real or that we can just positive think it away. Remember, I've got ADHD. It's real. And it pops up from time to time. So I'm not saying it's not real. We can positive think away. I'm not even going to say it's a superpower. I will say sometimes in some contexts it is. And sometimes in some contexts it's a disability. It may depend upon the context you're in. It may depend upon what the task is that you're working on. It may even depend upon like where your head and your energy's at in that day. Sometimes it's an advantage. Sometimes it's a disadvantage. I will say I am the person you want with you on the nature hike, because while everybody else is looking at what they're supposed to be looking at, I'm always looking at something different, which means I'm the first one to see the snake. Everybody else is looking at the tree, trying to see the owl. And I'm like, yo, is that a copperhead? This has happened more than once. So sometimes being distracted is a good thing. Maybe not for, me and my grade, but for the group. So I do think a lot of these mental habits and diagnoses, like I think they can actually be positive for the herd as a whole. It's just, if you're trying to be a square peg in a round hole, it can be a problem. So I am saying your diagnosis, your situation, your circumstance, your past, whatever, it's real. And also, how you think about it makes a big difference in your experience of life. So let me give you some examples from me. So when I first got diagnosed, I would say probably the first emotion that came up is I felt really vindicated because I had known since I was a kid that I was different, sometimes different good, sometimes different bad, depending upon the situation and other people's opinions. But I knew I was different. And so it was very validating to have a name for it, to have proof that it was real, and to be able to kind of get my hands around, well, what is this and what does it mean? How do other people think? I've only ever been inside my head. And then, right, I thought about it different ways. So I got into a little bit of a funk. And one of the ways I started thinking about it was, well, now that I've got this diagnosis, this just means I can't be successful, right? I've bounced around. I've done all of these other things. Other people might think I'm successful, but I know, right? I haven't had the traditional career. I didn't decide at the age of 6 that I wanted to be a doctor and then graduate from medical school debt free somehow, and then, make millions of dollars and enjoy every day. Now that I have ADHD, we know I can't be successful. Well, with that thought, I might start feeling, and I did start feeling a little depressed. So, what am I doing when I'm thinking my ADHD diagnosis means I can't be successful and I'm feeling depressed? I might sleep late because what's the point of getting up early if I'm not going to, early bird catches the worm, but if I'm not getting any worms, I might as well sleep in. I might spend some time scrolling on social media and just disconnect from my life. If it gets really bad, I might eat raw cookie dough with my bare hands in the bed while watching TV and crying, And then what's the result of sleeping in, scrolling on social media, eating raw cookie dough with your bare hands, watching TV, crying? Well, unless that's what you want to achieve out of life, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to be successful at hitting your health goals or, getting your work done or launching your business if that's how you're spending your time. So obviously that thought and that feeling are not going to take me where I want to go. So what if I think about this a little bit differently? And I actually already went through this one. If I get that ADHD diagnosis and I think, this explains a few things, I might feel validated. So then I might go learn more about ADHD, reflect on how it's impacted my life. I might work with a coach, which I did. I might work with a coach myself or a therapist or buy a book or, check out some YouTube videos, hopefully from reliable sources. But I might get educated and then a few things would get explained, right? There have been so many times on my ADHD journey where I have read something or watched something or had a conversation with somebody else who's been diagnosed and gone, oh, that's what I'm doing. It's an ADHD thing. That explains it. But again, with that belief of this explains a few things and feeling validated, I get a few things explained. So let's go on to the third example. Let's say I'm thinking about that ADHD diagnosis and I think, okay, some context it's good, some context it's bad, but maybe I actually need more support. I might feel determined. And so if I'm thinking I need support and I'm feeling determined, like I mentioned earlier, I might find a coach who has done what I want to do, who understands neurodiversity, who can help me with strategies and tactics, and then I get the support I need. So just some examples of even if the fact in our life doesn't change, how we think about the reality of our life gives us a lot of power. And if we're thinking a thought and feeling a feeling that get us to do the actions we need to do to get where we want to go, that will lead us to our result. So a lot of times when clients go through this with me, and by the way, that CTFAR, that is just a life coach school tool that I teach with my one-on-one clients. And a lot of times they will say to me, okay, Lisa, I see what you're saying. This thought is not going to take me where I want to go. I don't like the actions that are coming as a result of the thought I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. But I mean, it's true. Right? It just feels true. I just know that it's true. So I can see that the thought isn't serving me, but I can't let go of it. And I can't just, pick a new thought or brainwash myself because this is true. And I will say, if you believe it's true and you want to stick with it, that is allowed, right? If you want to believe anything about your life, right? This is the best man I'll ever get, or, I'm just not going to be successful, or I just can't lose the weight. Whatever you want to think, if you want it to continue to be true, that is totally allowed. But like I said, a lot of times my clients can see, okay, the thought is making me feel bad. And then out of that yucky thought and that bad feeling, I'm doing things I don't like, and I don't like where this is taking me. There are tools and techniques that can begin to open up some wiggle room. I think about this two different analogies. One is if you've ever had a jewelry box, or maybe, your daughter or your mom, someone has had a jewelry box and the necklaces have gotten all tangled together. What I do with clients is we start to put space, loosen things up until we can get one thought, one little necklace out, and then decide, do we want to keep this or do we want to let it go? But when everything's all tangled together, right, that process of making space, another way to think about it, if you remember having baby teeth, sometimes in the beginning, the baby tooth is not ready to come out, and it is not helpful to try to yank it out, right? You're only going to cause yourself pain if it comes out at all. But what we can do is sort of wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it until one day it's loose enough that it comes out very easily. It falls out on its own. So that's one of the things that I use different techniques to help clients with. If you're at all familiar with emotional freedom techniques, also EFT, you may have seen videos of this online where people are tapping. This is something that I use with clients. There's actually a video on my website. It's a little subtle, but I think if you watch it, you will recognize the client's brain actually switches sides in the middle of the argument. As we're going through and doing the EFT, she's like, I'm just lazy to exercise. I'm just lazy to exercise. And this is her like ultimate truth of the universe. She's just the kind of person that is this way. But then as we go through, we're using the EFT, it starts to loosen up, loosen up, loosen up. And then by the end, she's actually arguing against her own point. So initially her position is, I'm just lazy to exercise. By the end, she's like, well, hang on, that's not true, because I did do yoga the other day and I did go for a walk the other day. So it can be a way to help your brain kind of step back. It takes some of the charge off of that emotion so that you can start to wiggle it out. So that's a technique that I use. Another one that I use very occasionally, theta healing, which is more of an energy healing technique. But we put people, it's not hypnosis, but it's that kind of state, a very meditative, relaxed state after they've already decided, okay, I've identified this thought. I would like to not believe this is true. With that theta healing, you're in a little bit more suggestible state. And there are times when we can go in and with the client's consent, obviously, the client can change that thought with a practitioner's support and guidance. So that can really help with that whole, but what about when it's true? So let's go on to the next slide, little sip of water. All right. And I actually referenced this earlier. A lot of my clients have worked through things intellectually. They've done the therapy. They get it. They know what happened to them as a kid was not their fault, right? If you're 3 and somebody's an adult, what that adult does is not your fault. and not within your control. They get it. But again, sometimes that energy is still in them. And energy work can be really effective for that, which is what the EFT and the Reiki and some of these other things are. Another thing, which I don't practice, but I hear can be really powerful. If you work with a therapist who does the EMDR, the eye movement, I hear good things. I hear it's intense, so you have to be ready for it. But that I have heard can be powerful as well. Not something I offer, but I hear good things. All right. So that's a little bit about me, about how I help clients, really kind of rewiring their brain, right? Because again, if what we think is driving how we feel, and what we think and how we feel are driving what we do, that's going to give us our results. So most coaches just try to intervene at that do level, right? Like, let's just get you running. Let's just start. Let's just go. But when that doesn't work, it's because it's not consistent with the thoughts and feelings behind it. So change the thought, change the feeling. The action will then naturally change. Yeah, it might require choice. It might require effort, but you're not going against your own psychological makeup, your own mentality to force something to happen. What you're trying to make happen becomes more of an expression of who you are and who you want to be. So if you're like, sounds cool, I'd like to learn more either about the health coaching or specifically about how you help neurodiverse folks. Obviously, ADHD is my specialty, but I do think having worked in IT and knowing my family, probably have a lot of exposure to folks with autism as well. So if it's something that you're intrigued with, you think I can help, the first step is free. That's the good news. Just shoot me an email, lisa@lisaduke.net. Let me know what's going on. If I honestly believe I can't help, but I know somebody that can, I will try to point you in the right direction. That's just, I actually learned that from my husband in the IT consulting business, and it has served me well. But if it is something I can help with, then we can go ahead and get started. I can get you some information on coaching packages. I do all my coaching just like this over Zoom, except you get to talk. So it's something you can very easily fit into your schedule on your lunch hour, come in late, leave early, that kind of thing. And I'm very much here to help. And also, one other point, I am backing everything I have to date. If you work with me and it doesn't work out, I will refund you your money. I know there are a lot of, especially coaches, but a lot of people out there offering help, maybe with good intentions, maybe not. But to me, you're paying for results. So if you work with me and you don't get results, I don't want your money. That's the exchange. It's not your money for my time, because we're both putting our time in. It's your money for your results. That's what I'm selling. So if you don't get results, I give you back your money. But knock on wood, so far, I have not had to do that with anybody that has worked with me one-on-one. But it's available with the intention being that it keeps me in integrity and should help you feel safe. So lisa@lisaduke.net. Or you can check out my website, lisaduke.net. I have a page out there about executive function coaching. I have a page about health coaching. I'm also a newly certified personal trainer. So if you want to train from home, private, over Zoom, we can do that as well. So just let me know how I can help. And I look forward to speaking with you soon. Have a good day. Bye.